Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Now in this video, I will be talking about unconditional acceptance and how everyone can choose to apply it. It's a choice. It's not like, well, Sam can apply it, but you can't apply it. Sam can apply it, but Bob down the road can't apply it. That's not true because it's a choice. Someone can have unconditional acceptance just because they decide to do so, just because they decide to adopt it, they decide to have it, and they decide to practice it. That is how it comes about. It's not like you're the exception, you can't have unconditional acceptance. That's not true at all. It's a choice and you can choose to apply it. And it's something that I recommend looking to apply, especially if you are finding yourself emotionally disturbed, if you are finding yourself very anxious, very depressed, very angry, very guilty, very shameful, constant low mood. Okay, because it often links to all kinds of emotions. Because when you look at why you're feeling that way, it all tends to boil down to a conditional acceptance. Something there that you can't accept. Something there that you're internally rejecting. Something there that you're internally resisting. And unconditional acceptance, hence the word unconditional, no matter what, no conditions attached, that gets under this. Okay, hence why we talk about it a lot. Because it is so important, especially on the OCD recovery journey. Unconditional acceptance for me was the missing part. It was the missing component. It was the missing key. It was the missing piece of the puzzle. Because I did all the exposures, I worked on life structure, I had changed my relationship with the thoughts. I could see, well, yeah, it's just a thought. I could change how I was viewing the thoughts. That was fine, but there was always a missing piece to that puzzle. I always remained stuck. And that was because I didn't really know how or what unconditional acceptance was and how it was applied. Okay, until I found Rob's page, OCD Recovery, back in 2019. And here I am today, recovered from OCD. I'm a coach here, and hoping to help you apply unconditional acceptance to your recovery journey and see why you remain stuck, see why OCD won't budge, and ultimately what you can accept. Hence why we go towards unconditional acceptance. Now, acceptance is an agreement. Okay, that's the first myth I want to clarify. That applying unconditional acceptance doesn't mean you're agreeing, doesn't mean you're liking, doesn't mean you're wanting, doesn't mean you're supporting, doesn't mean you're excusing, doesn't mean you're justifying anything. You're just applying acceptance to the self, the other person, the other individual, and life in general. Okay, so there's a big difference between acceptance and agreement. Let me just mute my laptop because that'll get very annoying. So yeah, big difference there. Acceptance isn't agreement. And you will learn that especially in the third book on our reading list, The Myth of Self-Esteem, and that breaks it down, how humans can't be rated on one particular trait. You can evaluate, you can rate the trait, you can rate the deed, you can certainly rate the performance as bad, as no good, as evil, as wrong, as immoral. But as soon as you then rate the human, you then open the door wide open for all kinds of emotional disturbance, such as rage, anger, guilt, panic, anxiety, depression, and so on. Okay, those unhealthy feelings that we do not want to feel. So, unconditional acceptance is a choice. Anyone can choose to apply it. Like I've already said, that's so important. You're not the exception, you're not this treatment-resistant case. If you work on it, you can apply unconditional acceptance. It is for you, it's just for you, it's not for anybody else. It's not like, oh, I can only apply it if he applies it, I can only apply it if she applies it. No, you can apply it just because you merely choose to apply it. Okay? So let's break this down. So let's look at why humans can't be rated on one particular act or one particular thought or one particular feeling or one particular deed or one particular trait. Okay? Because humans do and have innumerable traits, okay? Many traits, numerous, several, okay? Variety of traits, millions, if you want to get exact with the figures, right? I don't know the figures to hand because there is no exact figure, right? But all we know, humans will have millions, numerous amounts of traits, okay? Now, these traits are changing from day to day, from year to year, through different time periods. They're constantly varying. Okay, they're constantly changing because let's say you did something today, and today is 23rd of July 2024 when I'm recording this video. Now, let's say you did the same thing today as what you would do 100 years ago. That could be deemed as good or neutral, as bad 100 years ago, whereas today it could be deemed as good, bad, or neutral. So it could be looked at completely different just because of the time period, just because of what era of time you're in, just because you did this in 2024, or if you did this in 1924, it's completely different. You can go back even further. You can go back thousands of years, right? And obviously things will look a lot different then. And you can also go back a lot less than that. You could say, well, even 10 years ago, right? That can be something that was deemed as maybe just neutral back then, but now it's maybe deemed as bad or good. I'm not sure. It can be various different things. Okay, so humans can be rated on ever-changing acts because it can be viewed very differently via cultures, via time periods, via any kind of time frame. Things change. Humans evolve. That's the evolution process. Humans adapt. Humans evolve to things. Humans change. Humans learn. Humans make mistakes. They then learn from that. Society then learns. Okay, that is how the humans evolve, and that is all part of the evolution process. So when you look at it like that, how can a human be rated on a trait that was deemed as bad 100 years ago but good today? Are they bad or are they good? Right? Because, well, 100 years ago they'd be deemed as bad, but now they're deemed as good. Let's say they did something that was deemed as bad today and good 10 years ago. Are they good or are they bad? Right? Because that is constantly changing depending on how you rate the act. Right? So, yet again, there is evidence, there is rational thinking, there is proof why a human can't be rated on that one act or many different acts because it is constantly changing depending on the time period, depending on the time frame. Okay? Next thing, you are an ongoing process. Okay? So, you have your past traits, you have your present actions, and you have your future traits or future deeds or future performances. Okay? Now, pretty much what I was saying in the previous point, if you were to rate that, that means your global rating, your self-rating would only be valid for at one point of time, at one moment in history, right? So on the 23rd of July, you are bad, right? But then that human is constantly learning. That human is constantly changing, right? They are learning from that. They are adapting. They're seeing where maybe they made a mistake, and they're adapting from that. So what you're saying there is just because they may have made a mistake on the 23rd of July, that they are totally bad because of this one mistake. Well, what about them, all the traits and deeds and acts they do on the 24th of July, and a year later, and 6 years later, and 20 years later, right? You can go even shorter time period than that. You can go, what about the next day? What about the next hour? Right? So you can't rate somebody just on one particular thing, right? Because that is constantly changing, right? If you just rated somebody on what they've done, let's say 10 years ago, what about all the acts and all the traits and all the feelings and all the deeds that they've done in the 10 years building up to today? Are they non-rateable? Are they invalid? Are they void just because of this one thing that happened 10 years ago? Doesn't really make much sense, does it? Okay? You're not then saying, well, I'm not going to rate any acts. No, that's not true. But it's defining the human based on this thing in the past. Because the human is ever changing. The human is an ongoing process, right? We constantly adapt, we evolve. That's how humans learn. That's how we evolve. Okay, so what you're actually saying when you apply conditional acceptance is that because you have done this one thing, you are stuck in this one thing. You just stay still. You don't move. You do that one thing, you just stand. That's it. I can't do anything else. I've just done this one thing. Well, that's not true. Okay, that's ridiculous. That's not true. So yes, even if the act was very, very, very bad, which it can be because humans do commit bad acts. Now, that is not just then excusing that bad act. That is a misconception. You're not just excusing it. You're not just then going, oh yeah, that's fine. No, okay? You can strongly disagree with something and strongly condemn something. But then, if you then rate that human as bad based on that thing 10 years ago, based on that act that they did 10 years ago, you are then ignoring, forgetting, and just not taking any consideration of all the acts that they've done since, which could have been good. Yes, they could have been bad. Yes, they could have been neutral. They could have been indifferent. Okay? So what about that good act they may have done the day after the bad act? Is that irrelevant, is it? Is that void? Is that just doesn't matter at all? Is that what we're saying? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any rational sense because just because they've done that one thing 10 years ago, you are completely ignoring anything they may do in the now, since that bad act to now and in the future. So you're writing off their future. You're saying, well, they did this thing 25 years ago. That means their whole future will be bad because they are bad and they just have been born with a total badness. Well, that obviously isn't true and that can't be proven. Right? Because no human is born with badness. Okay? many different factors at play as to why somebody does a bad act, as to why somebody acts immorally, illegally. There's many different factors at play. It's not black and white, okay? Because otherwise, if you were just born with that badness, you would just know from birth. They would be born with a flag. Hey, I'm bad. Hey, I'm good. Doesn't exist. Okay? Also, another good point with unconditional acceptance is that if somebody is born with badness, right, then if you look at it like this, well, how would it then be just, say, for example, to then punish them even further? Because they are already seeing the world, they're already suffering to have that much badness, to have that much worthlessness, right? So to then punish them, torture them, beat them up, how does that fix anything? Because they're already suffering from a huge level of badness, okay? What it shows it isn't true, okay? There is no human that's bad or good. It's just humans that do bad things, that do good things, that do neutral things, that do indifferent things. You're not trying to just... Look, the main thing here is that you can rate the action, right? That's how humans learn. That is how you can punish the action, because many bad things, many illegal things, many crimes, many horrendous atrocities in life, yes, you punish the action because that has to be deterrent, because you're not trying to support bad behaviour, definitely not. But when you rate the human, I'm showing how it can't possibly happen. It doesn't make any scientific sense. There's no human can't have global rating just based on one thing, from all the reasons I'm explaining now. Okay, you can turn what I was just saying then about goodness. If a human was born with lots of goodness, for example, if they were born good, now surely giving them reward all the time isn't really just, because they're already born with that advantage, right? If someone is born with that, then surely constantly rewarding them over and over and over again isn't really fair, because they are lucky enough and they are fortunate enough to have that good brain. They have that goodness in them, right? So that really isn't just, is it? Okay? So there is no such thing. No one is born bad, no one is born good. Okay? It's all different factors at play which led them to do bad and good things and neutral things. Okay, but there is no good person from their goodness, and there is no bad person from their worthlessness. Okay, because humans aren't born good, bad, worthless, neutral. They're not. Okay, they're just born on this planet, and they commit many things, they do many things, they say many things, they act many things, they think many things, and they feel many things, right? That is how humans behave, that's just how humans live, okay? And the actions, yes, they can be evaluated, but when you jump from the action to the individual, that is when you get into lots of emotional disturbance, okay? So, when you look at global ratings, what is the calculation, right? So let's say a human being does throughout their lifetime, let's say they do 10,371 good acts, right? Don't know how you rate this, don't know how you calculate that, but let's just say that as an example for argument's sake. Okay? Now let's say that human has also done 631 bad acts, right? I'm going to forget these numbers because I'm saying it off the top of my head. Now, okay, all right, cool. So, yes, there's good acts, there's bad acts, right? Now, what do you do to get to a global rating? What do you do? Do you add them and then you subtract the bad acts? Do you then divide it by the age they were when they committed those acts? Is that the formula? Do you then go, right, well, they were 26 when they did that, so you do 10,371 divided by 26. Well, hang on a minute, they did that act when they were 21, so we'll do that one there divided by 21. Well, hang on, they did that bad act when they were 63, so we'll divide that by 63. Hang on a minute, we're also going to multiply it by all the factors at play. So, what their life surroundings was, what they were told on the day that they committed the bad act, right? How they woke up, how tired they were, right? Whether they were just told bad news, good news, whether they're having a good day, shit day. We're gonna multiply it by that. We're also gonna multiply by the culture that they're in, and their political beliefs, and their religious beliefs, and all their brain makeup, their brain wiring. We're gonna multiply it by all that, and then we're gonna get to this global rating figure, and there you are. You are 73.3 bad. How does it even work, right? I'm showing you how it just cannot be proven, right? A human just can't have a global rating. It's good, bad, 72.6% good, 29.3% bad. It doesn't make any sense, okay? because every individual action, everything that somebody does is constantly changing, plus the human is constantly changing, but there is no universal formula. There is no calculation. There is no equation to all this, right? It's not like you put all the good acts in a machine, whack all the bad acts in, get your agent in there, and then put the beliefs and put the factors, put all the contributing factors in there, press the equals button, boop, there we go. And you are now 90.1% good. And you are, over there, you're 92.9% bad. But I mean, where are we going with this, right? It just cannot be proven, okay? And I'm just making this up as I go along these numbers. So the maths will be all over the place. Cool. So, now, another good point. Traits and characteristics are valued and rated very differently in different cultures and at different times, right? So pretty much all what I've been saying, how can something that's seen, let's say a characteristic that is seen in the UK as bad, a trait in the UK or the US that is seen as bad, then you go 10,000 miles away to where it's seen as neutral or even good, right? Is that then good, bad? Are they good in that country, bad in this country, good in this community, but bad in that society, good in this societal group, but neutral in that culture? You know, how do we do this? How do we get to this figure? Okay, there is no global rating figure. Okay, you've got to be very aware of this, because when you're chasing this, I'm a good person, I can't be a bad person, it must not be a bad person, I've got to be a good person. It cannot be rationally proven, right? So you evaluate, you rate, you measure, you can monitor acts as bad, as very bad, as horrendous act, yes. You know, because that, if an act is labelled as horrendous, we've got to have some kind of punishment in place, because that is going to deter people from committing that act, right? If the person is then horrendous, if the person is then totally evil and monstrous and terrible, then you are saying, well, because of that one thing, that's all they can possibly do is that one thing. Well, no, because I've got all the other things that they do and all the factors at play which led them to do that and so on, okay? That is conditional acceptance, all right? So you rate the action, you separate the sin from the sinner. Because when you mix them together and then rate the individual, you're going to pay the price emotionally, because it's, oh, they must not have done that. You're not looking at all the factors which led them to do that. And then you're going to be, they're bad, so you must get revenge. They're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. You are the worst person ever. They're evil. Okay, and ultimately, with conditional self-acceptance, you are going to be in a guilt and shame and panic, anxiety cycle going round and round and round and round, beating yourself up in that self-punishing cycle, self-defeating cycle, and ultimately a self-sabotaging cycle, which is no fun at all. Okay? And also, when we do this calculation for global rating, you would have to know all of one's actions, all of one's thoughts, all of one's feelings, all of one's good acts, bad acts, accomplishments, weaknesses, okay? Their state at the time, so their mindset, what position they were in, what they were told on that day, how they felt on that day, what led them to do that. You'd have to have all of this, okay? And how would you know that you've got it all anyway? How would you know that you're not missing something? All right, because you think, well, I especially need the good and bad acts here, but shall I include that one? Shall I not? Is that one too good? Is that one not good enough? Is that one too bad? Is that one not bad enough to be included? How would we do this, right? It doesn't make any sense, okay? So you'd have to know all of it, and you'd have to know for sure that you've got all their actions. They have to be totally 100% honest with you, that they told you all the actions they ever did since birth, and you stick it all in this calculator. Boom, there you are. You are 91% good. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Okay? So, to recap, unconditional acceptance, anyone can choose to apply it. It's a choice. Okay, you can decide to have it just because you wake up and decide to have unconditional acceptance. Doesn't mean you're going to believe it. Doesn't mean you're going to embody it within a couple of minutes. Doesn't work like that. It takes time. We just did a webinar actually on steps to acceptance, and we mainly really highlighted how long it actually takes to get to that position, or to actually fully believe that. So it takes time, but you can practice it. You can't just do acceptance, but you can practice it. You can apply it over and over again. and you can just choose to have it just because it's simply your choice to have it. So if you find you are remaining stuck, if you are finding it very difficult to get out of the OCD cycle or just any mental health disturbance with constant anxiety, depression, panic, unconditional acceptance for me and for many others that I coach and that we see come in really, really helps get under it. It makes OCD budge, because otherwise it just latches onto that thing that you can't accept so tight and goes, nope, you just can't accept that. No, that would be the worst thing ever. I'm not going anywhere. But as you start applying unconditional acceptance, that starts to release. It starts to unlatch, it starts to take a step back, and then you can start living your life on your terms again. And those peaceful feelings, or just those, not that chronic guilt and shame, that will start to fade. Okay, and ultimately, true mental health and happiness. Okay, and I truly believe in unconditional acceptance. That it's helped me so much. And I think it is the way forward. I just wish that people were learning unconditional acceptance. I really wish it was, because I think it would solve many problems. Yes, with anger and rage towards other people, and ultimately how they view themselves, okay? Constant beating themselves up, that's constant guilt cycle, okay? That stems from conditional acceptance. If you need help with that, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. You can get in touch with me. I'm Sam, or one of the other coaches here. You've got Rob, you've got Nick, you've got Momin, and you've got Gemma. You can get in touch with us here, and we can book in as soon as possible. So email phil@ocdrecovery.com. If you have liked this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to do more videos on this, please leave a comment. Whether you want me to cover other aspects of unconditional acceptance, I'm more than happy to, and why it just doesn't make any sense and why it can't be proven and why it's illogical, then please just leave a comment and I will continue doing videos on this topic. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please leave a like and we'll speak again. Bye-bye.